Tonight on Currents News, open doors in the Diocese of Brooklyn. It's a small step for churchgoers, the journey to a full recovery underway.
From gloves to masks to taped off pews, churches in the Diocese of Brooklyn are doing all they can to keep their parishioners safe. I'm Emily Druby, and that's ahead.
Calls for an investigation as elected officials from across the aisle say the state set nursing homes up to fail. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
And the vaccine race continues tonight. New human trials beginning. Louisiana Bishop Shelton Fabre is fighting another evil in the face of the pandemic, racism. Will there ever be a cure? Plus, prayer is booming across the United States. A map of hope stretching from the East Coast to the West shows rapid spread. The news starts right now.
Church opened. I could not resist. It drew me to come, and now I feel what I used to feel.
A long-awaited moment. Some church doors are open again in the Diocese of Brooklyn, and with them, parishioners' hearts. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Though many churches have reopened, restrictions are in place. After being closed for months, parishes are taking every precaution to ensure the health and safety of their people. Starting today, church life is being renewed across the diocese on a case-by-case basis. Currents News' Emily Druby has the story.
Inside St. Patrick's Church in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, longtime parishioner SHIRLEY BERKOWITZ prayed.
When I first walked in, it was overwhelming, the bigness of it, and then to see the altar.
She's one of the first to be able to do so since the pandemic caused the closure of churches in March. The Diocese of Brooklyn began phase 1 of its reopening plan on Tuesday, May 26th.
The church opened. I could not resist. It drew me to come, and now I feel what I used to feel. And it is wonderful.
Clergy thrilled to reopen, but also cautious.
It's nice to be able to welcome people back into our church to pray. Their safety is our priority, so we have to go slowly and follow the directives of the diocese as well as the government as well.
Safety measures could be easily spotted. There was only one entrance. Parishioners sat far apart. The amount of people inside was limited, and masks were a must. Not all churches opened on Tuesday. About 30 in the Brooklyn Diocese decided to hold off for now.
Keep coming, keep coming.
Over in Jamaica, Queens, Presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church also opened its doors for the first time in months. There was a line of parishioners waiting to get in the door for private prayer and confession, including Angel Lucero, who wanted to thank God for helping him recover from the coronavirus. Father Victor Bolaños provided the translation from Spanish.
To give thanks to God for the life he gives to me, for being able to recover from the illness.
Not all were there to pray. Aude Pierre only dropped by to give her tithe.
Because I'm a Catholic, I have to give my 10%. When you get something from God, you have to give something back.
Like St. Patrick's Church, Presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church has strict safety procedures in place. Volunteers helped limit the amount of people inside, pews were sectioned off for social distancing, and volunteers wore full safety garb.
If we do it well, organized in an organized way, we can give them back what they need.
Father Bolaños is speaking about the great need to get back into church. And Christine, that need was obvious today. People were so filled with joy to see those doors open.
Emily, you mentioned at least 30 churches didn't open today. Why?
So, Christine, it takes a lot to open a church. Some didn't have the proper personal protective equipment. Some simply needed to get more time to get volunteers in place. But those that were unable to open today are working hard, and most should be open within a week. Christine?
All right. Thank you, Emily. You can find the list of parishes in the Diocese of Brooklyn that are not yet ready to reopen at thetablet.org. Please make sure you call your parish to check the status of your church before going for private prayer. And Net TV, New York's Catholic station, will continue to broadcast live TV masses in 8 languages. The liturgies are on the air Sunday and throughout the week. The full schedule is listed at netny.org. BERKOWITZ.tv. In New York State, thousands of vulnerable seniors have died in nursing homes. Some data shows the deaths account for at least 20% of the statewide total. Many were patients sent to the facilities after being hospitalized for COVID infections. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the latest on the tragedy and demands for an investigation.
The coronavirus is especially dangerous to the elderly and those with underlying health conditions. Yet, it infiltrated the very places where the most vulnerable live.
The governor basically forced this issue and forced those patients onto those nursing home and rehabilitation centers. And, he's now trying to blame President Trump and say, oh, we were following the CDC's guidelines, the White House directives. Well,
Queens City Councilman Eric Ulrich is calling for an independent investigation into the state's nursing home deaths. Governor Andrew Cuomo has repeatedly defended a state directive that has since been scrapped, ordering nursing homes to take in and readmit recovering COVID-19 patients. Most recently, Governor Cuomo said the state was only following CDC requirements, a decision Councilman Ulrich said left thousands unprotected.
It was a deadly decision, and one that no doubt in my mind resulted in the deaths of many vulnerable New Yorkers. That's why I'm calling for an investigation at the city level, because I don't expect one to come from the state level.
In New York State, more than 4,500 recovering COVID patients were sent to nursing homes before testing negative. Nearly 3,100 nursing home residents have died. The previous Cuomo directive disturbed elected officials across the political divide. In a statement, Democratic Councilman Mark Traeger said in part, quote, "The moment they knew asymptomatic people can carry and transmit the virus was the moment they had to do more than adhere to inadequate CDC guidance." Providers said they were never told they could transfer a patient who could not be properly cared for.
He left people vulnerable to be like sitting ducks, and they had nowhere to go. And so many people needlessly died because of the governor's bad decision.
Councilman Ulrich has requested a hearing with Council Speaker Corey Johnson to launch an investigation into nursing home deaths. We reached out with questions to Johnson and the governor's office, but haven't heard back from them yet. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The global hunt for a vaccine against the coronavirus is gaining steam. The U.S. biotech company Novavax is now testing human volunteers. Eventually, they want to conduct trials with about 130 people. Results from the first phase of the research should be ready by July. News of the vaccine helped boost the stock market. Governor Andrew Cuomo rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange this morning. The first-day traders were allowed back on the floor after a 2-month lockdown. The S&P 500 finished the day up more than 1%. Analysts are crediting the vaccine news and new hopes for the U.S. economy. Cuomo will meet President Trump at the White House tomorrow to talk more about economic revival efforts. Here are some more headlines. New York City suburbs are getting the go-ahead to restart their economies. Westchester County and 6 others in the Mid-Hudson region open today. Tomorrow, Long Island is set to get clearance. Schools in New Jersey will be allowed to hold outdoor graduation ceremonies in July. Governor Phil Murphy said the celebrations could begin July 6th and must comply with social distancing rules. U.S. travel restrictions aimed at Brazil go into effect tonight. Foreigners who were in Brazil recently are prohibited from entering the states. The deadly shooting of jogger Ahmaud Arbery is now being investigated as a federal hate crime. Gregory McMichael and his son Travis were arrested on May 7th for the February shooting. Investigators say the white men chased Arbery, who was black, as he jogged on a Georgia street. The killing sparked outrage after video of the incident surfaced. The man who recorded the video was also arrested. Protests are expected to continue in Hong Kong even after at least 180 people were arrested over the weekend. Demonstrators were forced to run away after police fired tear gas at them. The pro-democracy protesters are taking to the streets to fight the imposition of a national security law that would threaten the city's autonomy and civil liberties. One well-known activist says President Trump is Hong Kong's last hope.
Mr. President, you're the only one who can save us. If you save us and stop China's aggression, you also save the world.
Jimmy Lay runs the pro-democracy paper, The Apple Daily. There's a lot more news headed your way. First time in a long time what the Pope did and the lucky few who witnessed it. Plus, the racial disparity of the virus and the incidents of racism that it sparked. The Louisiana Bishop who's speaking out about it joins us. And instead of tracking COVID, this map is tracking prayer. We'll show you. Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Cheers and church bells filled the air at St. Peter's Square. A small but joyous crowd assembled below the Pope's window on Sunday and became the first to be blessed by the Holy Father in months. Next Sunday on Pentecost, Francis will pray the Regina Caeli from the same window in the Apostolic Palace. Spreading alongside the coronavirus is another danger in our country and around the world: racism. The virus has largely affected people of color, with Black Americans accounting for 33% of COVID hospitalizations. Joining me to talk about those realities is Chairman of the USCCB Ad Hoc Committee Against Racism, Bishop Shelton Fabre of the Diocese of Houma-Thibodaux in Louisiana. And Bishop, earlier this month, you and other members of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops released a statement expressing concern about incidents of racism in the midst of this pandemic, particularly bullying. Talk to us about what concerns you.
Yes. Many Asian Americans are being harassed and bullied, particularly those in the medical field and those who work in other fields with regard to the coronavirus. And mistakenly, the reason for the virus is placed on them, and because of people's mentality in that regard, they are bullying and harassing members of the Asian American community, which is unfortunate because that's not acceptable as they attempt to help others to heal, and together with all of us try to respond to this virus. To be harassed and bullied out of xenophobia and racism, it's just not acceptable. So we expressed our concern about that.
Wow. Another unfortunate reality revealed by the virus is how healthcare outcomes can too often be determined by race. Data from MedPage Today shows in your home state of Louisiana, African Americans made up 70% of deaths from the virus, while they only account for 33% of the population. What accounts for that, and what can be done about it?
Yes, we also issued a statement, encouraging civil officials to examine that. There are so many reasons. I'm no sociologist, but the CDC has mentioned reasons that African Americans in particular and people of color may be affected more. One reason is because they tend to have multi-generational households, and they cannot isolate, they cannot self-isolate. Another reason is many of them do not have health insurance, so they cannot seek assistance with their health care when they first get sick. Many of them don't have paid leave, so they have to continue to go to work, and they cannot do what they need to do to help them to heal. And also just the residuals of racism that have brought about all of the comorbids in the lives of people of color that in so many ways systemic racism has visited upon them. Many African Americans do not live in neighborhoods that have grocery stores, so they can't get food that is more healthy food for them to eat. One of those tiny little things that I think is playing out with regard to this pandemic. So we expressed great concern about that and asked that be examined and looked into and responded to.
Right. All right, last thing, you're currently in phase 1 of reopening in Louisiana. What does that mean for churches? Are you holding indoor services, and what precautions are being taken?
We are following and adhering to what the civil officials ask of us. We can have 25% of our occupancy in our churches with social distancing. We are wearing masks. We are requiring hand sanitizer. We are sanitizing the church after each service. We're doing everything. We are encouraging people who are sick or who are elderly or immunocompromised not to come to Mass right now. The dispensation for Mass remains in place. We're also having Masses outside. We're continuing. It's going to be too hot here very soon to do Masses outside, but we're doing everything that is being recommended to have Mass inside. And thus far, we've done really, really well. I'm very, very proud of the priests, and I'm very, very proud of the faithful in the diocese who have responded.
All right, I'm sure everyone's happy to have those churches open. Bishop Shelton
Absolutely.
Fabre, who heads up the U.S. CCB's Committee Against Racism, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Catholics are praying for an end to this pandemic and all the ugliness that has come with it. While the virus has spread, so too has prayer. And now, thanks to a new website, people are starting to recite the rosary together from coast to coast. Melissa Butts has more on that story.
While coronavirus numbers are being counted around the world, Joe Kim, Joanna Hernandez, and Mike Del Ponte also wanted to track something else: prayer. To do this, they began the Map of Hope. It shows where the rosary is being prayed and even allows intentions to be posted.
So we created the Map of Hope so that people could come to the website, get a sense of hope in the sense that other people are praying for them, a sense of community around the world, a deeper devotion to the rosary, and ultimately using prayer to end the pandemic.
The site has formed its own prayer network as a result. In a matter of weeks, there are 9,000 prayer requests posted from 130 countries. Examples of miracles from the rosary are also shown, like the end of a plague in Italy in the 15th century.
The rosary is necessary at this time because it's a powerful prayer that we can all do anywhere. You could do it alone, you could do it in community. All you need is your rosary beads, and even if you don't have a rosary, you can use your fingers to count. But it's important because at this time when a lot of people can't go to Mass, there's still a way to do something that is ancient and significant and carries many miracles attributed to it.
Mike insists the Map of Hope also answers Pope Francis's call to pray the rosary, especially in the month of May.
Ho invitato tutti I fedeli a pregare in questo mese il Santo Rosario, insieme, in famiglia o soli.
While right now the map on their website only shows the United States, in a couple of weeks they're expanding it to a global map. They look forward to receiving intentions in various languages and seeing the rosary being prayed around the world, all for the end of the coronavirus. Melissa Butts, Currents News.
To pledge your own rosary, you can visit themapofhope.com. That's themapofhope.com. And a show of Italian pride as St. Francis of Assisi's Basilica reopened today. The house of worship for the country's patron saint held Mass for the first time since the lockdown. The pilgrimage site is one of the world's most visited. The Air Force released smoke in the colors of the Italian flag in honor of the special occasion. And some much more anticipated reopenings. Both the believed birthplace and burial place of Christ are also allowing the public to enter. The Church of the Nativity, where Christ came into the world, ended their nearly 3-month closure today. Traditional kissing or touching of the stones are forbidden. This weekend, the Tomb of Christ, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, opened. The holy site is also forbidding the kissing of stones, icons, and vestments inside. Both churches are only allowing 50 people inside at a time, and they must maintain a social distance and wear face masks. The Vatican's record-breaking live stream masses have had a bigger impact than numbers can express. Countless people are thanking the Holy Father for helping them through difficult months of distance and isolation. The messages of thanks were sent to the Vatican on all social media accounts. Here are just a few of those submissions.
Grazie mille, Papa Francisco.
We love you, Pope Francis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the daily Mass during this pandemic and quarantine.
Papa Pope Francis. Thank you so much. We love you.
Pope Francis stopped live streaming a week ago, urging people to return to Mass in person if possible. Still, the pontiff is continuing some online services. He plans to lead a worldwide rosary in the Vatican Gardens on Saturday. And still to come on Currents News, a moving and surprising tribute to a nearly 100-year-old veteran. We'll show you. Also ahead, the jig is up, lifting. An Irish priest adds a little kick to his live stream mass. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A World War II vet planned to dress in uniform and wave to people from outside his Massachusetts home on Memorial Day. Instead, the 99-year-old got a huge surprise. Nicole Burley has the story of prayers and a parade.
The never-ending line of cruisers, fire trucks, and cars outside Sergeant Everett Allen's house in West Brookfield was a huge surprise.
I just can't believe it.
Since there was no parade this year because of the coronavirus, Sergeant Allen planned to sit in his driveway on Route 9 in full uniform to recognize his fellow servicemen lost at war. Word spread quickly, leading to this rolling rally that looked like rush hour traffic.
This is the best Memorial Day parade I've ever seen.
Friends, family, and neighbors lined the streets wearing masks and social distancing as much as possible.
I'm so honored to know him and call him my friend.
A friend and a hero to so many, Allen was taken prisoner by the German army and survived the Death March of 1945, where American troops were forced to walk through harsh winter weather toward their freedom.
86 days and 380 miles. I have the records to prove that. 380 miles of walking.
The uniform he wore today is the one given to him after being freed from captivity.
They said you got to have some clothes. So why not get a uniform?
That uniform, a symbol of his survival and the sacrifice he made. After the salutes and thank yous, it was time for Sergeant Allen to pay his respects. Escorted in a Jeep, he visited the Veterans Memorial at Pine Grove Cemetery. They held a moment of silence, which really said it all. And finally, a prayer for those who lost their lives protecting this country.
Especially do we give thanks to those servants who laid down their lives in the service of our country. God bless them. Amen.
That moving story was filed by Nicole Burley. Sergeant Allen insisted that Memorial Day shouldn't be about him, but he appreciates how the community stood by him on such an important day. Here's another story that'll put a smile on your face, courtesy of a peppy priest. Some fancy footwork there by Father Colum Wright and two others at a church in Northern Ireland. Churches there are not yet open, so after the live stream mass on Saturday, the three men danced an Irish jig on the altar to lift the spirits of their parishioners. And finally tonight, Father Peter Purpura on a national news program this morning. The pastor of Our Lady of Hope Church in Middle Village, Queens, appeared on the Today Show, sharing with the audience how he's cared for his flock during the pandemic.
I walk through the streets on Sunday morning with two other staff members, and we just greet people as they come out of their homes, and we bless them, and we continue to go.
Father Purpura says he'll open the doors to Our Lady of Hope in about a week. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.